Hello, welcome back. Today I want to walk you through the deleterious effects of low energy availability and red S in athletes. So first of all, some definitions. What is low energy availability in athletes? Low energy availability means that you are not getting enough energy. You're not getting enough calories for your body's needs to support the exercise or the training that you're doing. For athletes, that is less than 30 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day. There's not enough calories coming in, and there is too many calories going out. This will result in rapid declines in performance of the order of 3 to 6 days. Declines in performance are seen. So, low energy availability is known to cause a number of problems. In female athletes, loss of function in the menstrual cycle, low bone density for all athletes, metabolic changes, poor immune system function, poor psychological function, lack of growth and development, anemia, gastrointestinal disturbances, cardiovascular problems, loss of cardiovascular function, and huge hormonal and endocrine problems. So low energy availability is a huge problem in athletes, and it leads to this condition called REDS, red S.
Relative Energy Deficiency in sport. That's a mouthful, but it's something you need to know about. Registered dietitian nutritionist and specialist in all things related to dancer health and nutrition. Today we're talking about a very important topic, specifically as it relates to dancers and the hormones that are supporting them. What was formerly known as the female athlete triad has since been returned relative energy deficiency in sport. And the reason for that is because the negative consequences that happen within this instance not only happens to female dancers. In fact, all dancers can suffer the consequences of hormonal imbalances, especially as they relate to energy imbalances. So what is relative energy deficiency in sport, or in short, red S? Well, it encompasses a syndrome of negative health implications that result from a negative energy balance. Since calories are our body's #1 source of energy, that means that the body requires a sufficient amount of calories to not only allow you to perform physically, such as dancing, but also calories are required for your body to, think of it like this, run the work backstage, the metabolic work that keeps your body functioning optimally. Low energy availability. This happens when we are either not eating enough food to support our body's metabolic and physical needs, or we're expending such an extreme amount of calories throughout our day from intense movement like dancing that our body doesn't have what it needs to meet energy balance. Low calorie diets or restrictive eating behaviors. An example is clean eating is often to blame for negative energy balance. Now, when this is coupled with an intense dance schedule, so you're dancing every day, several hours a day, plus you're partaking in intentional restrictive eating behaviors, then you are at a high risk for red S. Now, you can also be at risk for red S even if you are not partaking in intentional restrictive eating behaviors. You could very well just not be eating enough to support your body's needs. Now, busy schedules and above average levels of activity not only blunt natural hunger cues, but also just make it really challenging for dancers to get in the amount that they need on any given day. This is what leads dancers to that increased risk of developing relative energy deficiency in sport. And the end result, decreased endurance, increased risk for injury, weak bones, decreased energy stores, irritability, decreased muscle strength, and even depression, anxiety. These are some of the negative implications that dancers will experience if they're struggling with red S. Now, here's what's really important. All dancers should consult with a medical doctor, especially if concerns exist in regard to the potential of experiencing red S. A medical doctor can perform some specific blood work so that we can better assess where you're at and the appropriate interventions that need to be done. Why is this such an important topic for dancers? There are a couple reasons. First and foremost, nearly 1 in 3 dancers is known to struggle with disordered eating behaviors. And nearly 10 to 12% of dancers are at a weight that is too low to support their metabolic and physical needs. Now, we can blame industry pressures and, of course, antiquated food and body ideals for a lot of these stats. So not only does the work have to be done on the individual level for dancers to help in the prevention of red S, but of course, the work also needs to be done on the systemic level and encouraging that dance as an industry move away from body ideals that cause their dancers more harm in the short term and the long term. A couple things that you can start implementing today to reduce your risk of developing red S. First and foremost is eat enough. This comes down to that proactive fueling plan that you hear me talk about a lot. See, as I mentioned earlier, both hectic schedules and intense physical activity cause hunger cues to naturally diminish. So not only are hunger cues commonly unnoticed when we're so busy throughout our day, but also dancers might genuinely not experience hunger cues because of their intense level of activity. So proactive fueling essentially means that you are planning meals and snacks regardless of your physical hunger cues. What we consider this is practical hunger, eating in response to a flexible eating routine. And it's a tool that I work on with basically every dancer that comes through the Healthy Dancer program. Packing emergency snacks, getting in several snacks throughout your day, I'm talking 2, 3, maybe even 4 snacks on those intense rehearsal and performance days is critical to making sure that your body is getting in enough. Focusing on abundance and variety, making sure that you are not necessarily only eating the same specific rigid set of comfortable foods each day. You want to think about variety. You want to make sure you're not falling short because of restrictive food rules. We often see this with clean eating lifestyles where dancers end up sticking to very specific foods that they're comfortable with because they feel that they are clean or quote unquote healthier, but realize that this is more limiting than it is helping you. Abundance and variety is key, and making space for what's accessible to you. We want to avoid these strict food rules and instead consider an inclusive approach. Some foods to start focusing on now are foods that are rich in fat. Avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, making your eggs with butter. This can be super helpful for you to increase that amount of fat that you're eating in your day. Full fat dairy. Some preliminary research supports the consumption of full fat dairy for hormonal balance, especially as it relates to fertility. When compared to skim or fat-free alternatives, full fat dairy is not only more satisfying, but that added dose of fat helps to increase some absorption and transport of fat-soluble vitamins, specifically vitamins A, D, E, and K. Vitamin D of which helps support bone strength. Another intervention that you can start today is, when accessible, allowing yourself time to rest. Now, first and foremost, all dancers should have at least one rest day built into their training routine. If you're overtraining, then you're likely not giving your body enough time to recover in between intense dancing episodes. So not only are we considering our sleep schedules at night, but we are also making sure that at least 1 day a week, honestly close to 2 days a week, dancers need to be getting in a rest day, a full recovery day. And just a tip, those rest and recovery days require just as much nutrition to meet your needs, even as your active dancing days. We don't want to restrict our food intake just because we're dancing less. In fact, your recovery requires its own special set of nutrition, a topic that I cover in additional videos. And finally, seek professional support. A registered dietitian nutritionist like myself is a licensed individual. We are trained to help dancers in formulating a plan that makes sure that their energy needs, both physical needs for dancing and metabolic needs, are being met.
So there you have it, red S in athletes. As you can see, red S causes a number of problems. It used to be called the athlete triad, where people were concerned just about loss of menstrual function or loss of bone health, but we now know we've got impaired immunological function, gastrointestinal problems, cardiovascular problems, psychological problems, including depression, growth and development problems, blood problems, metabolic problems, and endocrine hormone problems. So it's a huge issue here. In a survey of around 1,000 female athletes aged 15 to 30 across 40 different sports, this study found that the risk of low energy availability was around 47.3%. Nearly half of all female athletes are at risk for low energy availability. That places them at risk for REDS syndrome in sport. So what are the important things to consider here? We know that as soon as an athlete is exercising heavily or has low energy availability, that starts at 30 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day. That's low, but still inadequate. Even inadequate energy intakes due to hard workouts every day. We're starting to see all of these changes. And as an athlete, you'll see fatigue and impaired performance. So the way to start to address this is to make sure that you're getting at least 45 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day. That is a zero energy balance. That's zero energy balance. This does not include all of your exercise calories. So if you're working out for an hour, you need to add the calories on top of this that you will be working out. So you'll get a basal rate, a basal metabolic rate here. This is it, 45 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass. Then you must add to that all of the calories you burn during the exercise of each and every day. Along with low energy availability and REDS syndrome, we see a number of eating disorders that are common in athletes who are losing performance through low energy availability. These are the most common eating disorders. We've got anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, some non-specified eating disorders, binge eating disorders, orthorexia, it's overly healthy eating, and bigorexia. We see this oftentimes in people working out in the gym. First of all, anorexia nervosa, it's an eating disorder characterized by small food intakes. Sufferers typically have distorted body images, an intense fear of becoming fat or gaining weight, and even when they're 15% below normal body weight or more. Anorexia nervosa, people lose huge amounts of muscle mass, and this is a particularly dangerous scenario if you know of somebody who you suspect might be suffering from anorexia nervosa, or you yourself suspect you might be suffering from the early stages of anorexia nervosa. Get help immediately. This is a fatal disease. Many people die from anorexia nervosa. If you know of anybody who might be suffering from this, get them medical attention immediately. And by immediately, I mean today. Physically, some of the symptoms are amenorrhea, loss of menstrual function, dehydration, high fatigue, gastrointestinal problems, sometimes hyperactivity, loss of control of body temperature, low resting heart rate, very susceptible to injury, very susceptible to stress fractures, very susceptible to infections and anemia, and loss of albumin, ferritin, glucose control, cholesterol levels, and estradiol levels are all abnormal. Bulimia nervosa, individuals often in the normal weight range to start with, but they show these cycles of binge eating, consumption of high energy dense foods, followed by purging. That would be vomiting up stomach content. If you know of anybody who does this regularly, who eats and then throws up immediately, that is a sign of bulimia nervosa. Sometimes these people suffering from this disease will eat foods in secret and then disappear shortly after a meal. Bulimic athletes usually do not volunteer information about their abnormal behavior because they feel guilty about that, but they need your support. It needs a medical treatment immediately. So please, if you know of somebody who might be suffering from this kind of disorder, or you yourself have signs of this disorder, please get professional attention immediately. Again, you can see calluses and sores on the back of the hand, which was used to induce vomiting, dehydration, dental problems, often loss of enamel from the stomach acid eating away at the enamel on the teeth. And then you'll see the usual weight loss, extreme weight fluctuations, loss of performance, and a variety of other symptoms. Binge eating disorder was added to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders in 2013. It's a disorder in which there are frequent episodes of eating large amounts of food in a very short space of time, followed by anxiety, distress, guilt, or disgust. This is an abnormal response to eating. If this is what's happening to you or somebody that you know, again, this is something that needs immediate medical attention. Typically, this will be occurring once a week. Sometimes it'll be eating a gallon of ice cream or eating a large pizza or something like that. It's often extreme overeating, though. Binge eating disorder absolutely can be fatal and it absolutely needs treatment by medical professionals. Orthorexia nervosa is particularly insidious. Orthorexia is extreme concern about eating a healthy diet. And it's estimated that around 7% of the general population suffer from this particular condition. It may actually be more frequent in men than in women. The people who are suffering from orthorexia nervosa dedicate a lot of their daily activity to planning their diet and to planning a healthy lifestyle. And on the surface, this looks like something that's healthy, but it can get out of control. The main problem is the healthy eating restricts food patterns. So they have people who are suffering from orthorexia nervosa have a small subset of foods that they stay with and eat all the time, over and over again, thereby reducing variety in their diet, which reduces adequacy, so they don't get the vitamins and minerals that they need. Because the variety of foods that they're selecting is so small, even though they are selecting some healthy foods on the surface of it, just not got enough variety, and they're eating a very restrictive diet. They think this is healthy. They think their restricted food products are quote unquote clean or pure, but actually this results in a lot of health problems. In this course, please do not use the term clean to describe healthy eating. It is flat out wrong, and I will deduct points for any essay or any discussion where a person is describing healthy eating as clean eating. It is not. Clean eating is restrictive eating, and restrictive eating is unhealthy eating. So orthorexia nervosa, oftentimes people who are suffering from this will focus very heavily on the content of each and every plate. It needs treatment. It needs to be looked at by medical professionals, and it can be fatal. Bigorexia is another problem, and it affects around 10% of athletes, particularly those involved in bodybuilding. And it's an unhealthy preoccupation with increasing muscle mass while decreasing fat masses, with the idea of looking toned or lean or having big muscle mass. Individuals oftentimes, again, eat a restrictive diet, a diet that's high in protein, has very low fat foods, have a huge amounts of protein supplements, way more protein than is necessary. Again, 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day is the maximum that will provide any benefit for muscle gain. So if you know people who are supplementing with higher levels of protein than this, they may be at risk of bigorexia. This often occurs in bodybuilding, weightlifting, and other related power sports. People who are involved in some of these power sports and suffering from bigorexia are at increased risk of taking steroid hormones, and then those come with their own set of negative consequences. Sometimes bigorexia is also called muscle dysmorphia. Bigorexia can be fatal. You can see the overdevelopment of musculature and the lack of fat on this athlete here. This is a dangerous condition which will result in early death. So it needs treatment by medical professionals.